We begin our journey not with the stars, but with the self, that familiar voice in your head, the one you've known your entire life. Might be the greatest paradox of all. What if the you that you know is built upon logical foundations as stable as a house of cards? Let's gently explore the riddles hidden within our own identity. 1. The Ship of Theseus. Imagine a ship, the HMSU, moored in a harbor. Over many years, every single wooden plank, every nail, and every sail is replaced, one by one, until nothing of the original ship remains. Is it still the same ship? And if not, at what precise moment did it become a new one? Now, consider that your own body replaces almost every cell has every 7 to 10 years. Are you still the same person who started listening to this story? The you of a decade ago is physically almost entirely gone. So what is this thread of you-ness that persists? It's not the planks, it's the pattern, the memory, the ghost in the machine. And perhaps that ghost is the only real part that matters. 2. The liar paradox. A man stands before you and says, in a calm, clear voice, "I am a liar." If he is telling the truth, then he is, in fact, a liar, making his statement false. But if he is lying, then the statement, "I am a liar," would be a falsehood, meaning he tells the truth. So which is it? Your mind just tripped over its own feet, and we've only just begun. This simple sentence creates a perfect, closed loop of logic from which there is no escape. It's a dizzying feeling, isn't it? That a few simple words can create an infinite trap. Let that dizziness be a gentle reminder that not everything needs to be resolved. Some loops are meant to be admired, like a spinning mobile, before we let our eyes go soft and look away. 3. The barbershop puzzle. Picture a small, sleepy village with just one barber. This barber, the rule says, shaves all those men, and only those men, who do not shave themselves. So, a simple question to drift off with, who shaves the barber? If he shaves himself, then he is a self-shaver, and by the rule, he should not shave himself. But if he does not shave himself, then he is a non-self-shaver, and by the rule, he must shave himself. His razor hovers, forever, in a state of quantum uncertainty. It's a cozy, logical trap, a lullaby of irresolvable rules that can soothe a busy mind to sleep. 4. The Sorites paradox. If you have a heap of sand, and you take away just one single grain, is it still a heap? It seems silly to say it isn't. So you take away another grain, and another. If one grain doesn't make the difference, then when, exactly, does this collection of grains stop being a heap and become just a few lonely specks? Can you ever find that one magical grain whose removal changes everything? This paradox attacks our categories, our labels. When does a few gray hairs become going gray? When do a series of casual encounters become a relationship? The boundaries are fuzzy, blurred, and perhaps that's a comfort. We don't need sharp lines to understand the world. We can exist in the gentle, fuzzy areas in between. 5. The paradox of the court. A young law student makes a deal with her teacher. "I will pay you for your lessons," she says, "after I win my first court case." But then, she never takes a case. The teacher, impatient, sues her. As the student defends herself in court, she thinks, "If I win, I don't have to pay according to the court, but our original deal says I pay after I win. But if I lose, then according to the original deal, I haven't won my first case, so I don't have to pay." The judge's gavel hovers, forever. The system is caught in its own rules. It's a perfect, self-referential knot. And sometimes, the most peaceful thing to do is to stop trying to pull the ends and just let the knot be. 6. The feeling of being watched. Have you ever been in a public place and suddenly had the distinct, prickling feeling that someone is watching you? You turn, and sure enough, a stranger's eyes meet yours. Spooky, right? But did you feel their gaze because they were looking, or were they looking because they felt you turning? Which came first, the observation or the reaction? This tiny moment blurs the line between observer and observed, between your internal world and the external one. It's a small, everyday mystery that reminds us we are not isolated islands, but part of a subtle, interconnected web of perception. 7. The bootstrapped universe. What caused the universe to exist? The Big Bang, perhaps. But what caused the Big Bang? And what caused the cause of the Big Bang? This chain of why stretches back and back and back. It either goes on forever, an infinite regression, or it must end with something that caused itself, an unmoved mover, a concept that uncaused itself into being. The universe, it seems, may have pulled itself into existence by its own bootstraps. A wonderful, impossible idea. You don't need to understand how. You can just rest in the wonder of it. 8. The brain named itself. Your brain is the thing that named itself brain. It is the most complex object we know of in the universe, and it is trying to understand itself. It's like a book trying to read its own pages, or a camera trying to take a picture of its own lens. The instrument of understanding is the very thing being studied. Every thought you have about your own mind is your mind thinking about itself. This is the beautiful, dizzying loop of self-awareness. You are both the map and the territory, the dancer and the dance. 9. The voice in your head. You have a constant narrator in your head, commenting on everything. But who is talking? And who is listening? Are you the voice, or the one hearing the voice? This sense of a dual self, the thinker and the observer, is one of the most fundamental and puzzling experiences of being human. When you say, I need to get myself together, who is the I? And who is the self? It's a paradox that meditation explores deeply. And the ultimate insight is often that they are not two, but one. The listener is the voice. The watcher is the watched. 10. The story of your life. You think of your life as a story, with you as the main character. But this narrative is being written retrospectively, edited and revised by your memory constantly. The you that exists in this story is a simplified character, a protagonist crafted by your present self to make sense of the past. The real you is far more complex and far less storied. You are the author, the narrator, and the audience, all at once, for a tale that is being written in real time, with the ending unknown. And for tonight, that story can gently pause. The author can set down the pen. The narrator can fall silent. There is no need to edit or revise. There is only now, this quiet, dark, peaceful moment. Now, let's step outside of ourselves and into the world we perceive. But be warned, the world your brain presents to you is not the world as it truly is. It is a beautifully rendered simulation, a user-friendly interface that hides astonishing and often illogical secrets. How can your eyes see what isn't there? How can time both fly and crawl? Let's quiet our minds and look at the art of seeing itself. 11. The backwards brain. Your brain is an organ that runs on electricity and chemicals. It has no light, no sound, no color inside. It is dark and silent. And yet, it takes raw, meaningless data, wavelengths of light, vibrations in the air, and somehow, magically, turns them into the rich, colorful, symphonic experience of your consciousness. The red of an apple isn't in the apple. The apple merely reflects certain wavelengths. The red is constructed inside your mind. The world you perceive is not the world as it is, but a beautiful, user-friendly simulation running inside your head. You are living in a virtual reality built by your brain. 12. The placebo sleep. You can be told you had a terrible night's sleep, even if you slept well, and you will subsequently perform worse on cognitive tests. Conversely, being told you slept well can improve performance. Your belief about your sleep is sometimes more powerful than the physiological reality of the sleep itself. Perception isn't just about the outside world. It's about your inner state, too. Your mind's story about your body can become your body's truth. So, as you lie here listening, believe that you're drifting towards deep, restorative sleep. Your mind, believing it, may just make it so. 13. The Mpemba effect. Under certain conditions, hot water can freeze faster than cold water. It seems to defy common sense. The precise reasons are still debated. Evaporation, dissolved gases, convection currents. It's a reminder that the world is often more counterintuitive than our simple models suggest. Our expectations, our common sense, is just a story we tell based on limited experience. The universe is under no obligation to follow our scripts. It has its own, more mysterious ways. 14. The phantom limb. After losing an arm or a leg, people often still feel the presence of the limb, sometimes with vivid, painful sensations. The brain's map of the body is so deeply ingrained that it persists even after the territory is gone. It's a powerful reminder that what we feel is not the world itself, but the brain's model of it, a model that can sometimes be stubbornly, painfully wrong. Perception is not a passive reception of data. It's an active construction, a prediction. And sometimes, the prediction is so strong, it outlasts the facts. 15. The feeling of time. Why does time seem to fly when you're having fun, but drag when you're bored? Your perception of time isn't a steady tick-tock. It's a river that speeds up and slows down based on the landscape of your mind, on how much new information you're processing. A childhood summer feels long because it's filled with new experiences. An adult year flashes by because it's often a repetition of familiar routines. Time itself may be constant, but your experience of it is a fluid, personal, and deeply subjective story. 16. The sound of silence. What is silence? Is it the absence of sound? But even in a soundproof room, you can hear the blood rushing in your ears, the beat of your own heart. True, external silence only makes the internal noise more clear. Silence is not an absence, but a presence, the presence of your own self. As the external world fades, the internal one comes into sharper focus. And in the quiet of the night, that could be the most soothing sound of all. 17. The color you can't see. What if there's a color that you, and all humans, are incapable of perceiving? We have 3 color receptors. The mantis shrimp has 16. What does its world look like? We can never know. Our reality is defined and limited by our senses, a small slice of a much larger spectrum of existence. There are sounds we cannot hear, lights we cannot see, realities happening all around us, forever beyond the reach of our perception. Our world is a small, cozy room in an infinite, unknowable mansion. 18. The dreamer's reality. And what about the world you experience in your dreams? In the moment, it feels utterly real. The fear, the joy, the texture of a dream wall. It's only upon waking that you label it unreal. But what if, right now, you're simply in a longer, more consistent dream? There is no logical test you can perform to be absolutely sure you are not. This life, with all its solidity and routine, could be the most vivid dream you've ever had. And that means the boundaries between real and unreal are softer, more porous than we usually dare to believe. 19. The spotlight effect. You walk into a room feeling self-conscious about a small stain on your shirt. You feel like everyone is staring at it. In reality, most people are far too absorbed in their own lives, their own spotlight effects, to notice. We overestimate how much others are observing and judging us. We are the center of our own universe, and we mistakenly assume we are also at the center of everyone else's. It's a liberating thought once you truly feel it. You are free because nobody is watching as closely as you think. 20. The Capra delusion. A rare condition where a person believes that their loved ones, their spouse, their parents, have been replaced by identical imposters. The brain's emotional recognition system becomes disconnected from its visual recognition system. The person looks right, but doesn't feel right. It's a terrifying paradox of familiarity and strangeness, all happening within the mind. It shows that recognition isn't just a visual process, it's an emotional one. To truly see someone, you have to feel them. And when that feeling is lost, even the most familiar face becomes that of a stranger. Time feels like a river, flowing steadily in one direction. But what if that's just another comforting story we tell ourselves? In this chapter, we'll wade into the waters of time, where effect can precede cause, the future can influence the past, and your childhood might be happening again, right now. Let's loosen our grip on the arrow of time and see where the current takes us. 21. The ticking that slows down. Imagine two twins. One stays on Earth, living a quiet, comfortable life. The other boards a spacecraft and rockets away at nearly the speed of light, exploring the cosmos. When the traveling twin finally returns, they step out of their ship, looking barely a day older. But they find their earthbound sibling has aged decades. Time itself stretched and slowed for the traveler. So, whose clock was the right one? There is no universal now, only a personal, relative flow of time, a river you carry with you. Your journey, your very motion, shapes the passage of your own time. It's a reminder that even the most constant thing we know is, in fact, a personal, pliable experience. 22. The Grandfather's Timeline. A classic of time travel tales. What if you went back in time and, in a moment of tragic accident, prevented your grandfather from meeting your grandmother? Then you would never be born. But if you were never born, you couldn't have gone back in time to stop them. So, they would meet, and you would be born. And so the loop continues, a perfect, unbreakable circle of cause and effect. It's a story that ties itself into a knot, a narrative Mobius strip with no beginning and no end. Some stories aren't meant to have a linear plot. They are just beautiful, impossible loops to contemplate as you drift away. 23. The predictive brain. Your brain is not living in the present. It's constantly predicting the future, about a half second ahead. It uses past experiences to guess what will happen next, and then it presents that prediction to you as your now. This is why optical illusions work. Your brain makes a wrong prediction. So, in a very real sense, you're always living in the past, experiencing a world that has already happened, guided by a brain that is always forecasting what comes next. The present moment is a fleeting, theoretical point that you can never quite catch. So there's no use straining to be in the now. You are always, comfortably, a little bit behind, being gently pulled forward by the tide of your own expectations. 24. The feeling of déjà vu. That eerie, unmistakable feeling that you have experienced the present moment before. Your brain gives you a strong signal of familiarity, but your memory offers no source. It's like a ghost in the machine, a brief glitch where the brain's processes for experiencing the present and recalling the past momentarily tangle. For a split second, your brain mistakenly labels the new moment as a memory, creating a phantom memory of the now. It's not a message from a past life. It's just a tiny, harmless short circuit, a hiccup in the matrix of your mind, a gentle reminder that your perception is a fragile, beautiful construction. 25. The paradox of the photograph. A photograph captures a moment in time, freezing it forever, but the moment it captures is already gone. The photograph is a testament to loss, a beautiful, melancholic proof that everything passes. We take pictures to hold on to time, but in doing so, we acknowledge that it is always slipping through our fingers. The more we try to preserve a moment, the more we highlight its inevitable passing. So perhaps the best way to honor a moment is not to capture it, but to fully live it, and then let it go, like a breath released into the air. 26. The quantum eraser. In the strange world of the very small, an experiment can be set up where the choice to erase information about a particle's path can be made after the particle has already been detected. Somehow, this retroactively changes the behavior of the particle from the past. The decision you make now seems to rewrite the history of what already happened. Cause and effect, the very bedrock of our reality, seem to soften, suggesting that the future can whisper back to the past. It's as if the universe, in its first draft, leaves some details blank, waiting for us to fill them in later. The story isn't fixed. It's being written and edited in every single moment. 27. The myth of the unmoving past. We think of the past as fixed, solid, immutable. But is it? Your memory of the past is not a perfect recording. It's a story you tell, and that story changes every time you recall it. Each time you remember an event, you reconstruct it, subtly altering the details, influenced by your present mood and beliefs. So, in a very real sense, the past is not fixed. You are rewriting your own history every single day. The past is as fluid and changeable as the future, a story you are constantly editing to make sense of who you are now. 28. The Zeno's arrow paradox. A philosopher named Zeno once argued that an arrow in flight is actually perfectly still. At any single, frozen instant in time, he said, the arrow is in one specific, unmoving place. And if time is just a collection of these instants, then the arrow is, at every moment, not moving. So how does it ever get from the bow to the target? Perhaps motion is just another comforting story we tell ourselves to make sense of a reality that is, at its fundamental level, a series of still frames. The smooth flow of life is an illusion crafted by your mind, a film projector running at high speed. 29. The psychological now. How long is now? A second? A few seconds? Psychologists call this the specious present, the short duration we perceive as being in the immediate now. It's not a point, but a tiny window. Within this window, your brain blends what just happened with what is happening, creating a seamless experience. But this means now is actually a brief smear of time, a collage of the very recent past and the present instant. You are never in a single point in time. You are always swimming in a small, comfortable pond of duration. 30. The end of the story. We crave narratives with a clear beginning, middle, and end. But your life has no such clear structure. The middle is happening right now, and the end is unknown. The meaning of the early chapters can change based on what happens later. The story is being written without a known plot, and we're both the author and the protagonist, blind to the next page. So there is no pressure to know how your story ends. In fact, it's better not to know. The mystery is what makes it worth reading. And for now, the only task is to rest, to pause the narrative, and to simply exist in the quiet between the chapters. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't. This is the ancient, humbling paradox of knowledge. In this section, we'll confront the limits of our own understanding. We'll meet statements that can never be true, questions that have no answers, and the unsettling possibility that the ultimate truth is forever out of reach. It's a strangely peaceful thought once you accept it. 31. The statement that cannot be true. This statement is false. Look at it. Read it again. If it's true, then it must be false. If it's false, then it is accurately describing itself as false, which would make it true. It's a perfect, closed loop of logic, a merry-go-round for the mind that you can step off by simply closing your eyes. Some sentences are not meant to convey meaning, but to reveal the limits of meaning itself. They are logical koans, designed to exhaust the thinking mind so a quieter wisdom can emerge. 32. The Socratic wisdom. Socrates, one of the wisest philosophers to ever live, famously said that he was wise because he knew that he knew nothing. The more you learn, the more you become aware of the vast, endless ocean of what you do not know. True expertise is understanding the scale of your own ignorance. The peak of the mountain of knowledge is the point from which you see the infinite, uncharted ranges beyond. It is a humbling and ultimately relaxing realization. You don't have to know everything. It's okay to not know. 33. The illusion of explanatory depth. You're sure you know how a zipper works? I mean, of course you do. You use them all the time. But could you explain it, in detail, to someone who had never seen one? Most of us can't. We often feel we understand things in much more detail than we actually do. Our confidence is a ghost, a phantom limb of true knowledge. We navigate the world using rough sketches and good enough models. And that's perfectly fine. You don't need to know the physics of a zipper to use it. You don't need to understand the neurology of sleep to experience it. You can simply let go and trust. 34. The map of the territory. A map is a representation of a place, but a perfect, one-to-one map of a territory would have to be exactly the same size as the territory itself, which would make it useless. So, all useful maps are incomplete, simplified models, and your understanding of the world is just a map inside your head. Necessary, helpful, but never the full, messy, beautiful territory. Your thoughts are not the thing itself. Your beliefs about reality are not reality. They're just maps. And when you confuse the map for the territory, you get lost. It's better to sometimes fold the map up, put it in your pocket, and just walk, feeling the earth beneath your feet. 35. The words that fail. We use language to describe reality, but language is made of separate, discrete words, while reality is a continuous, flowing whole. Trying to describe the taste of chocolate with words is like trying to paint a symphony with a single color. Some experiences simply slip through the net of language. Love, awe, the feeling of a cool breeze on a warm night. These are things to be felt, not described. Thinking about them too much is like trying to grab a handful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. 36. The problem of other minds. You can only ever experience your own consciousness directly. You assume other people have minds like yours because they act and talk like you. But you can never truly know. For all you know, everyone else could be sophisticated philosophical zombies, going through the motions without any inner life at all. It's a lonely thought, but also a strangely intimate one, connecting us through a shared act of faith. We must believe in each other's inner worlds. It is the fundamental act of empathy, a leap of faith that builds our entire social world. 37. The unexpected test. A teacher announces, there will be a surprise test sometime next week. A clever student argues this is impossible. It can't be on Friday, she says, because if we haven't had it by Thursday, we'd expect it on Friday, and it wouldn't be a surprise. So, Friday is out. But if Friday is out, then it can't be on Thursday either, because by Wednesday night, we know it has to be Thursday. And so, she reasons, day by day, until the whole week is eliminated. And yet, on Wednesday, the teacher gives the test, and it is a complete surprise. Logic, when it tries to capture a fuzzy concept like surprise, can tie itself in knots. Some things are meant to be experienced, not preempted by reason. 38. The rule about all rules. Every rule has an exception. Is that a rule? If it is, then it too must have an exception. So, there must be at least one rule that has no exceptions, which would make the original rule false. It's a rule that, in trying to govern all others, trips over its own feet. It's a linguistic reminder that we can't create a perfectly sealed system of thought. There will always be a leak, a paradox, a crack in the foundation. And it's through those cracks that the light gets in. 39. The introspection illusion. Looking inward to understand why you feel or act a certain way seems like the most direct path to self-knowledge. But we are often terrible at it. We confabulate, creating plausible-sounding but false explanations for our own behavior. The true, complex, unconscious causes remain hidden, even from ourselves. So when you find yourself asking, "Why did I do that?" and you come up with a neat, logical answer, be skeptical. The real reason might be a tangled web of impulses, biases, and hidden motivations that you can never fully untangle. And that's okay. You don't need to know why you feel sleepy to allow sleep to come. You can just let the feeling of tiredness be, without needing a story to explain it. 40. The pin that pops everything. Was the sound of one hand clapping. It's a classic koan, a riddle meant to short-circuit logical thought. You can't answer it with reason. You can only let the question itself dissolve, leaving behind a quiet, empty space where an answer used to be. The purpose of the koan is not to find an answer, but to exhaust the mind that seeks answers. It is a tool for quieting the internal chatter. So don't try to solve it. Let the question hang in the air, and as you focus on it, feel your own thoughts beginning to slow and settle into a deep, wordless peace. The sound of one hand clapping is the sound of your own thinking coming to a rest. We are social creatures, living by shared rules and making countless choices. Yet, our collective behavior and individual decisions are filled with bewildering contradictions. Why does doing what's best for you sometimes harm everyone? Why does having more choices often lead to less satisfaction? Let's lie back and observe the curious dance of human interaction. 41. The prisoner's dilemma. Two accomplices are arrested and held in separate cells. The police offer each a deal, betray the other and go free, while the other gets a long sentence. If both stay silent, they both get short sentence. If both betray each other, they both get medium sentence. The rational, self-interested choice is to betray. But if both are rational and self-interested, they both end up worse off than if they had cooperated. Individual logic leads to a collective loss. It's a beautiful, frustrating model of so many human problems, from arms races to climate change. It shows that our fates are intertwined, and that pure self-interest is often a road that leads to a prison of our own making. 42. The tragedy of the commons. A pasture is shared by many herders. It is in each herder's rational self-interest to add one more cow to their herd to gain a personal benefit. But if every herder does this, the pasture is overgrazed and destroyed for everyone. Individual rationality, once again, leads to a collective irrationality, a failure that feels both inevitable and heartbreakingly human. We see this in overfished oceans, crowded highways, and the shared resources of our planet. The lesson is a gentle one. What is good for me right now is not always what is good for us in the long run. And us includes future generations and the world itself. 43. The Abilene Paradox. A family is sitting on a porch in Texas on a hot afternoon. Someone idly suggests driving to Abilene for dinner. No one really wants to go, but each person assumes everyone else does, so they all agree. The trip is long, hot, and the food is terrible. Later, they all admit they never want to go. The inability to communicate our true preferences can lead us on collective journeys that no one actually desires. How often do we say yes when we mean no, simply to maintain harmony? How many meetings drag on because no one dares to be the one to say, "This is a waste of time"? The paradox teaches the value of quiet, honest communication. 44. The paradox of thrift. If everyone tries to save more money during an economic downturn, aggregate demand falls, leading to lower incomes, which, in the end, makes it harder for people to save. What is prudent for an individual can be disastrous for the economy as a whole. The collective outcome is the opposite of the individual intention. It's a macroeconomic version of the prisoner's dilemma. You're logical, responsible decision, when multiplied by millions, can create a world where that very decision becomes impossible. It's a reminder that we are all cogs in a vast, complex machine, and sometimes the machine behaves in ways that no single cog would ever choose. 45. The burden of choice. We think we want unlimited options, freedom. But have you ever stood in a supermarket aisle, staring at 50 different kinds of mustard, and felt a rising sense of anxiety? This is the paradox of choice. The more options you have, the harder it is to choose, and the less satisfied you are with your final pick. You are haunted by the ghost of the mustards you didn't choose. We crave freedom, but are overwhelmed by its endless possibilities. Sometimes, a little limitation is a form of liberation. A single, quiet path is easier to walk than a crossroads with 1,000 signs. 46. The sunk cost fallacy. You've paid for a movie ticket, but 10 minutes in, you realize the film is terrible. Do you leave, or do you stay because you've already paid? The money is already gone. It's a sunk cost. The logical thing is to leave and reclaim your time. But emotionally, we feel compelled to follow through on our past investments, even when it no longer makes sense. We stay in bad relationships, dead-end jobs, and boring movies because we've already invested so much. Letting go can feel like admitting that all that time was wasted, even when holding on wastes more. The wisest choice is often to walk away, to treat the past as gone, and to make your next choice based only on the present and future. 47. The authenticity paradox. In a world that values being yourself, trying to be authentic can become a performance. The very act of consciously trying to be authentic can make you feel inauthentic. Am I being truly me right now? You ask yourself, and in asking the question, you've stepped outside of yourself to observe, and the moment is lost. True authenticity may be the one thing you can only have when you stop trying to have it. It's like sleep. The harder you try, the more it eludes you. It arrives only when you cease the striving. 48. The spotlight effect. We already met this in perception, but it applies doubly in society. You walk into a party, convinced everyone has noticed your nervousness or your slightly too casual outfit. In reality, they are all preoccupied with their own spotlight, worrying about what you are thinking of them. We are all the stars of our own movies, and we forget that everyone else is too. This can be a source of great anxiety or great relief. The relief is this: you are free. No one is scrutinizing you nearly as much as you fear. You can relax. You can just be. 49. The IKEA effect. We place a disproportionately high value on things we have built or assembled ourselves. That wobbly bookshelf you put together is worth more to you than an identical, sturdier one built by a professional. Our own labor, our own sweat, our struggle with the confusing instructions and the oddly shaped wrench imbues an object with a magic that the market price cannot capture. The flaws become charming. The effort becomes part of the story. This is why we love our homes, our gardens, our creative projects. We don't just love the thing. We love the part of ourselves we see reflected in it. 50. The friendship paradox. On average, your friends have more friends than you do. It sounds impossible, but it's a statistical truth. Think about it. The most popular person in your social circle is, by definition, friends with a lot of people, including you, who might have fewer friends. This skews the average. It's a simple mathematical fact that can, if you let it, make you feel a little bit lonely. But see it another way. You are connected to hubs, to social connectors who link you to a wider world than you could ever reach on your own. Your network is wider and more interesting because of this simple, quiet paradox. Let your mind expand now, beyond the everyday, to the edges of reality itself. Here, we encounter the infinite, a number so large it contains itself, a hotel that never runs out of rooms. The mind-bending idea that our entire existence might be a simulation within a simulation. These are not problems to be solved, but vast, cosmic landscapes to get lost in. 51. The infinite hotel. A hotel with an infinite number of rooms is completely full, every single one. Yet, a new guest arrives. Can they be accommodated? The clever manager simply asks every current guest to move to the room number 1 higher than their own. The guest in room 1 moves to 2, the guest in 2 moves to 3, and so on, forever. This frees up room 1 for the new arrival. An infinite hotel, always making space. It's a comforting thought, in a way. There is always room. The universe is always capable of one more thing. 52. The infinite bus. But what if, at our infinite hotel, an infinite number of new guests arrive on an infinite bus? Surely the hotel is truly full now. Not so. The manager, unfazed, simply asks every current guest to move to the room number that is double their current one. So, guest 1 goes to 2, guest 2 goes to 4, guest 3 goes to 6. And in doing so, all the infinite odd-numbered rooms become free for the infinite new guests. Infinity is not a number. It's a concept that defies all our normal arithmetic. It's a concept that can make you feel very, very small, and yet a part of something unimaginably vast. 53. Hilbert's Grand Hotel. This is the name for our thought experiment. David Hilbert created it to illustrate the bizarre properties of infinite sets. An infinite set can have a part that is just as large as the whole. The set of even numbers is just as infinite as the set of all whole numbers. This isn't just a mathematical curiosity, it's a property of reality. The part can contain the whole. A single fragment of a hologram contains the image of the entire object. Perhaps we too are like that. A small part containing a reflection of the whole. 54. The simulation hypothesis. Given the rapid advancement of computing, it's statistically plausible that a sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulated reality. If so, it's far more likely that we are living in one of the billions of simulations than in the one original base reality. Your life, your memories, this very moment, could be lines of code in an alien computer. A modern, technological dream. But does it matter? The love you feel, the beauty you see, the peace you seek, it all feels real to you. If this is a simulation, it is a masterpiece of experience, and we are its living, breathing characters. 55. The anthropic principle. The universe seems finely tuned for life. If the force of gravity were slightly stronger or weaker, if the nuclear forces were different, life as we know it could not exist. Why? The anthropic principle offers a simple, almost tautological answer. If it weren't, we wouldn't be here to ask the question. We are the universe observing itself, and it had to be this way for us to be here to see it. It's not that the universe was designed for us. It's that we are a product of a universe that allowed us to arise. We are a natural expression of its laws. We belong here. 56. The concept of nothing. Try to think of nothing. Not blackness, not emptiness, but a true, absolute void. The moment you conceptualize it, you have made it a thing in your mind. Nothing becomes an idea, a concept. Nothingness, by its very definition, resists being thought about. It is the silence that vanishes the moment you listen for it. Philosophers and physicists struggle with this. How did something come from nothing? Perhaps because true nothing is inherently unstable. Perhaps it's a state that simply cannot persist. Perhaps the default state of reality is something. Existence. 57. The ugly duckling theorem. In the world of data and classification, there is a theorem that states, without prior assumptions, there is no such thing as a natural cluster of similar things. Any set of data points is just as validly grouped in an infinite number of ways. The categories we see in the world, swans, ducks, beautiful, ugly, are not inherent in the data. They are imposed by our own minds. We find the patterns we are looking for. We create the stories. The universe itself is just one vast, interconnected, patternless whole. Our minds are the artists that paint the categories onto the canvas of reality. 58. Barry's paradox. Consider the phrase, the smallest positive integer not definable in under 60 letters. But wait, I just defined it in 57 letters. So this integer is, in fact, definable in under 60 letters, which is a contradiction. This paradox plays on the self-referential nature of language and definition. It shows that the concepts of naming and describing are fraught with hidden traps. Some things might be inherently undefinable. Perhaps the most important things, like love or consciousness or the feeling of sleepiness, are among them. 59. The unseen tree. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? The scientific answer is yes, of course. There are air vibrations. But the philosophical question is deeper. Without an ear to translate those vibrations and a brain to interpret them as sound, is there an experience of sound? Or is there just silent, meaningless motion? The question really asks, does reality require a witness? Does the moon exist if no one is looking at it? Quantum physics suggests the answer might be stranger than we think. But for now, just listen to the silence in your room. That is a sound you can be sure of. 60. The Library of Babel. Imagine a vast, infinite library containing every possible book that could ever be written. Every combination of letters, every word, every story. In it, you would find the true story of your life, every secret of the universe, and also every possible falsehood, every nonsensical jumble, every truth and every lie, side by side, in a quiet, endless, chaotic order. In this library, finding a true book is statistically impossible. It is a metaphor for a universe of infinite possibility, where meaning is not given, but must be painstakingly discovered or lovingly created by us. We are the librarians of our own experience, choosing which books to read and which to leave on the endless shelf. We spend our lives chasing happiness, yet the path to it is paved with paradox. The more directly you pursue it, the more it eludes you. Our deepest fears are often about fear itself. In this chapter, we'll explore the gentle, counterintuitive art of letting go, and how sometimes the greatest joy is found not in getting what you want, but in wanting what you have. 61. The paradox of hedonism. The direct and single-minded pursuit of pleasure is often self-defeating. The more you aim for pleasure, the more it eludes you. Imagine trying to force yourself to laugh. The effort kills the joy. Happiness and pleasure are like a butterfly. Chase it, and it flies away. Sit quietly with a flower, and it may land on your shoulder. They are byproducts, not products. They arise from engagement, from connection, from flow, from losing yourself in a moment so completely that you forget to ask, am I happy? And in that forgetting, happiness appears. 62. The fear of fear itself. We are often afraid of things. Heights, spiders, social judgment. But sometimes, the most powerful fear is the fear of the fear itself. The dread of having a panic attack can be more paralyzing than the original trigger. The mind becomes a hall of mirrors, reflecting fear back on itself, amplifying it to infinity. The way out is not to fight the fear, but to observe it with gentle curiosity. To say, ah, there you are again. In turning towards it with acceptance, you break the circuit of amplification. The monster shrinks when you stop running and simply look at it. 63. The burden of potential. Being told you have so much potential can feel like a compliment, but it can also become a heavy weight. Potential is a future promise, and until it is realized, it can feel like a debt you have not yet paid. It is the shadow of a future self, always asking for more. It can rob you of the satisfaction of your present achievements. The antidote is to gently shift your focus from what you could be to who you are right now. To honor the present version of you, who is already complete, already enough, simply by being. 64. The value of nothing. Is it better to have something or to have nothing? Well, something, of course. But what if you had the choice between getting something, but other people got more, or getting nothing, and everyone else got nothing too? Suddenly, the choice isn't so simple. Our minds are funny that way, aren't they? We sometimes prefer absolute nothingness over a relative disadvantage. This shows that our sense of fairness and our social standing can be more powerful than our material self-interest. We are deeply, intrinsically social creatures, and our happiness is often tied not to what we have, but to what we have in relation to others. 65. The joy of missing out, JOMO. We all know FOMO, the anxiety that you might be missing out on a better experience elsewhere. But its antidote is JOMO, the quiet, deeply satisfying pleasure of staying in, of turning down an invitation, silencing your phone, and embracing the peace of what you have chosen. It is the conscious choice to miss out, and in doing so, to fully inhabit your own life. It is the happiness of the quiet evening, the forgotten book, the unplanned moment of stillness. It is the realization that the most exciting party in the world is happening right inside your own calm mind. 66. The paradox of forgiveness. Forgiving someone who has wronged you is often described as a gift you give yourself, a release from anger. But to truly forgive, you must, in a way, let go of the rightful claim you have against the person who hurt you. You have to surrender the moral high ground. It is a peaceful surrender of a justified war. This is why it's so hard. It feels like letting the other person win. But true forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It's about trading the bitter certainty of being right for the quiet peace of being free. 67. The Streisand effect. Trying to hide, remove, or censor a piece of information can have the unintended consequence of making it far more widely known. The attempt to suppress something gives it a story, an intrigue, that it never would have had on its own. We see this with celebrities trying to hide photos, and we see in our own minds. The more you try to suppress a thought, don't think about a pink elephant, the more powerful and persistent it becomes. The solution is not to push it down, but to allow it to be there, to acknowledge it without judgment, and let it pass through on its own. Fighting a thought gives it energy. Allowing it to exist lets it dissipate. 68. The forbidden fruit. Tell a child not to press a big red button, and suddenly, pressing that button becomes the most interesting thing in the world. Making something forbidden or scarce automatically increases its appeal. Our desire is often shaped not by the object itself, but by the rules surrounding it. This is the engine of much marketing and much personal temptation. Understanding this can bring a wry smile. That thing you crave, do you really want it? Or do you just want it because you feel you shouldn't have it? Sometimes, the greatest freedom is realizing the button has no power over you unless you give it power. 69. The coder delusion. An even rarer condition than capgras, where a person believes they are dead, that their organs are rotting, that they do not exist. The very sense of being alive, a feeling we take for granted, is stripped away. It shows that the most fundamental fact of our existence, that we are, is, in the end, a fragile perception generated by the brain. We are, all of us, just one delicate neural network away from losing our sense of reality. It's a terrifying thought, but also a humbling one. It can make you profoundly grateful for the simple, unshakable feeling of being that you have right now, in this quiet moment. 70. The paradox of fiction. We can feel real, powerful emotions, fear, sadness, joy, for characters and events we know are entirely fictional. We cry at a movie. Our heart pounds during a thriller. Why? How can we be moved by what we know is not real? It suggests that our emotional brain is not always a rational partner to our thinking brain. It responds to stories, to symbols, to the idea of things. This is a beautiful glitch. It means we are capable of empathy that transcends reality. We can connect with the struggles of a cartoon character, the hopes of a person who never lived. Our hearts are wider than the real world. So much of our anxiety comes from the desire to control our world, our future, ourselves. But what if the key to control is surrender? What if the way to achieve mastery is to stop trying so hard? We'll explore the wisdom of wu-wei, effortless action, and the peaceful power that comes from flowing with the universe, rather than fighting against it. 71. The effortless effort. Think of a master craftsman, a pianist, or a great athlete. When they are at their peak, they are not straining. They are in a state of flow. Their actions are effortless, precise, and graceful. They have practiced so much that the skill has become embodied, unconscious. The trying has fallen away. This is the paradox of mastery. You must consciously practice until you can perform it unconsciously. You become an expert when you no longer need to think like one. The goal is to make the effort so seamless that it looks and feels like no effort at all. 72. The planning fallacy. We are notoriously bad at predicting how long a task will take. We consistently underestimate, imagining a best-case scenario, forgetting past delays and interruptions. We are optimistic planners, forever hoping that this time, things will go exactly according to plan, even though they almost never do. This is a form of the control paradox. Our desire for a neat, controllable future blinds us to the inherent messiness of life. The solution is not better planning, but more flexibility. To hold our plans lightly, like a reed in the wind, rather than clutching them like a rigid rod that is sure to break. 73. The Cobra Effect. An old story from colonial India. The government wanted to reduce the number of cobras, so it offered a bounty for every dead cobra. People began breeding cobras to collect the bounty. When the government scrapped the program, the breeders released their now worthless cobras, leaving the population higher than ever. The solution to a problem actively made it worse. This happens when we try to impose simplistic, top-down control on a complex system. The system fights back in unexpected ways. It teaches humility. Sometimes, the best way to solve a problem is not to force a solution, but to nudge the system gently, or simply to step back and let it find its own balance. 74. The Jevons Paradox. When a resource, like energy, is used more efficiently, the overall consumption of that resource can actually increase, because the improved efficiency makes it cheaper and more accessible, stimulating more use. We solve a problem of scarcity, only to create a problem of abundance. You buy a fuel-efficient car, and then you drive it more often, negating the savings. It's another example of a system resisting our simple attempts to control it. Our interventions have ripple effects, often in the opposite direction of what we intended. 75. The control you think you have. You feel in control of your actions, your thoughts, your life. But neuroscientific studies, like those of Benjamin Libet, show that the brain initiates action before you are consciously aware of making a decision. The feeling of conscious choice may be a post hoc story your brain tells itself to explain what the unconscious mind has already decided to do. You are the narrator, not always the author. This can be a disturbing thought, but it can also be a freeing one. You are not solely responsible for the endless, buzzing chatter of your mind. You can watch the thoughts appear, as you would watch clouds drift across the sky, without feeling you have to control their journey. 76. The Stoic Dichotomy of Control. The ancient Stoics had a beautifully simple answer to the anxiety of control. They divided the world into two categories: things that are within our control, our opinions, our judgments, our desires, and things that are not, our body, our reputation, the weather. Suffering, they said, comes from trying to control what is not in our control. The path to peace is to focus all your energy on what you can control, your inner world, and to accept with grace everything that you cannot. It is the ultimate surrender and the ultimate form of empowerment. 77. Wu Wei. This Chinese concept, often translated as effortless action or non-doing, is the art of flowing with the Tao, the natural way of the universe. It is action that is perfectly aligned with the circumstances, like a river flowing around a rock. It is not an action. It is effective action without struggle or force. It is what happens when you stop trying to swim and instead learn to float, trusting the water to hold you up. In your own life, it might look like knowing when to push and when to rest, when to speak and when to be silent, all without internal conflict. It is the embodiment of the control paradox. By giving up forcing, you become far more effective. 78. The backwards law. The philosopher Alan Watts, and more recently Mark Manson, articulated this idea. The more you pursue something, the more you reinforce the lack of it. The more you chase positivity, the more you notice negativity. The more you strive for meaning, the more meaningless life can feel. The reverse is also true. When you accept your negative feelings, they lose their power. When you stop seeking meaning, you often find it in the most ordinary moments. Progress, therefore, often comes from moving backwards. Peace comes from embracing the war inside. Clarity comes from accepting the fog. 79. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The people who are the least competent in a given area are often the most confident because they lack the very expertise needed to recognize their own incompetence. As you learn more, your confidence can actually dip as you become aware of the vastness of what you don't know, before slowly rising again with true mastery. This is the paradox of confidence. Those who know the least are the most sure, while the wisest are often filled with doubt. It's a comforting thought when you feel uncertain. Your doubt is not a sign of weakness. It may be a sign of growing wisdom. 80. The final paradox of sleep. And so we return where we are now. To fall asleep, you must try not to try. The more you strive for sleep, the more it evades you. You have to surrender, to let go of the effort, to allow sleep to come to you. It is the ultimate act of releasing control, of trusting your body to do what your mind cannot command. You cannot make yourself sleep. You can only create the conditions: a dark room, a comfortable bed, a quiet mind, and then let go. You must practice the Wu Wei of sleep. You must get out of your own way. And as you release the effort, as you surrender the need to control this moment, you might just find that sleep has been here all along, waiting patiently for you to stop struggling so it can gently take you in its arms. The story of your life is the most important story you will ever know. But is it true? Your memories are not perfect recordings. They are fragile, shifting things, rewritten every time you recall them. We are the stories we tell ourselves. And in this section, we'll gently unpack the beautiful, flawed fiction of our own past. 81. The illusion of memory. You don't recall the original event. You recall the last time you remembered it. Each time you pull a memory from the shelf, you dust it off, maybe bend a corner, and put it back slightly changed. Your past is not a fixed recording. It is a living document, forever being edited. That argument from 5 years ago. The details you recall today are a blend of what actually happened, how you felt about it then, and how you feel about it now. The past is not a castle made of stone, but a sand castle on the shore, constantly reshaped by the waves of your present self. 82. The paradox of specificity. The more specific and detailed a memory feels, the more we trust it. And yet, our most vivid, detailed memories are often the most unreliable. The brain fills in gaps with plausible details, creating a rich, convincing, but false picture. A photograph can be fuzzy, but a memory is a high-definition painting, constantly being retouched. This is why eyewitness testimony can be so flawed. We are not liars. We are storytellers, and our own minds are the most compelling authors we know. 83. The false memory paradox. It is possible, and surprisingly easy, to implant an entirely false memory into someone's mind. Through suggestion and repetition, a person can come to vividly remember a childhood event that never happened, like getting lost in a mall or even riding in a hot air balloon. This means that not only are your memories imperfect, but some of them might be pure fiction, seamlessly woven into the tapestry of your life. You are, in part, a character in a story that you didn't even write. 84. The narrative fallacy. We are story animals. We crave cause and effect, a clear narrative arc. So, when we look back on our lives, we impose a story onto the random, chaotic events. That job I didn't get led me to the love of my life. That failure made me stronger. This storytelling helps us make sense of the world, but it also distorts it. We see meaning and intention where there might have been only chance. The story is cleaner, simpler, and more satisfying than the messy, unpredictable reality. 85. The Rashomon effect. Named after the famous film, this is when different people recall the same event in wildly different, yet subjectively truthful, ways. A single conversation can be remembered as a friendly chat by one person and a hostile confrontation by another. There is no single, objective past. There are only countless subjective versions, each true to the rememberer. Your truth and my truth can both be valid, even if they contradict. Reality is a collaboration of perspectives, not a single, fixed point. 86. The reminiscence bump. When older adults are asked to recall their most vivid memories, a disproportionate number come from their adolescence and early adulthood, between the ages of 15 and 30. This is when our identities are being formed, when we experience many firsts. Our brains seem to tag these memories as especially important. So, the story of your life is not evenly written. It has a thick, detailed chapter right in the middle, shaping the entire narrative that follows. 87. The feeling of knowing. You're sure you know a fact, like the name of that actor in that movie. It's on the tip of your tongue. You can feel the knowledge, its shape and weight, but you cannot see its face. This is the illusion of explanatory depth applied to memory. We often feel we have a memory locked and loaded, ready to access, when the filing cabinet is actually empty. The feeling of knowing is itself a memory of a state of familiarity that can exist independently of the actual knowledge. 88. The suspension of disbelief. We willingly set aside our logical mind to enjoy a story. We accept that a man can fly, that a wardrobe leads to a magical world. This temporary surrender is a gift we give to storytellers and to ourselves. It is a conscious decision to believe the unbelievable for the sake of wonder. And we do this with our own life stories every day. We suspend our disbelief about the neatness of our narrative, about the clarity of our memories, because the alternative, a chaotic, meaningless jumble, is too unsettling to live with. 89. The banality of evil. The philosopher Hannah Arendt, observing the trial of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann, noted that he was not a raving monster, but a dull, ordinary bureaucrat who was simply doing his job. She called this the banality of evil. Great evil, she observed, is often not committed by monsters, but by ordinary people simply following orders, going along with the system, not thinking too deeply about what they are doing. The story of evil is often not a dramatic tale of a villain, but a boring story of compliance and paperwork. 90. The hero's flaw. Conversely, great acts of heroism are often performed by ordinary people who, in a single moment, make a choice to act. They are not superhuman. They are simply people who, when the moment came, did not look away. The potential for both profound good and profound evil resides in the most ordinary of hearts. We are all the heroes and the villains of our own stories, and the plot can turn on a single, quiet decision. But for tonight, there are no decisions to make, no heroics required. The only task is to rest. After wandering through 99 twists and turns of logic, we arrive at the final, quiet truth. The ultimate paradox is that seeking clarity often brings confusion, while accepting mystery can bring a deep and profound peace. It is time to lay down the burden of understanding, to stop trying to untangle the knots, and simply let them be. 91. The paradox of the preface. An author writes a book, and in the preface she says, "I have done my best, but I am sure there are errors in this book. I take full responsibility for any mistakes." So, she is asserting that every statement in the book is true, while simultaneously asserting that at least one statement in the book, the one in the preface, is false. A humble, self-defeating loop. It is a fitting metaphor for the entire human project of knowledge. We build vast structures of understanding, all the while knowing that somewhere, hidden in the foundations, there is a crack. And that crack is what keeps us humble and curious. 92. The comfort of predictability. We find comfort in routines and patterns. Yet, we also crave novelty and surprise. We are creatures balanced on a knife's edge, seeking the safety of the known while yearning for the thrill of the unknown. Our perfect day is a blend of comforting routine and a single, beautiful, unexpected moment. This is the paradox of our nature. We are homesick for a familiar place, and yet we are born with an innate wanderlust for undiscovered country. We contain both the anchor and the sail. 93. The Sorites of the Self, revisited. We began with the Ship of Theseus, the heap of sand. Now we return to you. Your cells replace themselves. Your memories change and fade. Your beliefs evolve. The you that started listening to this is already gone, replaced by a new you who has heard these words. Are you a single, continuous self, or a chain of successive selves, each one closely resembling the last, like a flame passed from one candle to another? Perhaps the continuous you is the space between the links, the silent awareness that witnesses the constant change. And that awareness is what can now rest. 94. The unobserved universe. We end, as we began, with a question of observation. Quantum physics suggests that particles exist in a blur of probability until they are observed. So, what about the distant cosmos? The far side of the moon? The center of a black hole? Places where no conscious being has ever looked. Do they exist in a definite state? Or are they waiting, in a dream of potential, for witness? This is the ultimate scaling up of our paradoxes. The universe itself may require a participant to bring it into full reality. And in your sleep, as your conscious mind dims, perhaps small parts of the universe gently return to a dreamlike state, waiting for the dawn of your awareness to call them back into being. 95. The Library of Babel, revisited. In that infinite library, every book exists. Every truth, every lie. The story of your life is in there, in countless variations. But so is every other story. In a library of all stories, no single story is special. Meaning is not found in the books, but in the act of reading, in the choice of which story to believe, which narrative to live by. You are the librarian of your soul, and you get to choose which books to take off the shelf and cherish. And tonight, you can choose a story of peace. 96. The paradox of letting go. To gain your life, you must lose it. To find yourself, you must forget yourself. To be in control, you must surrender. We have seen this theme in happiness, in effort, in sleep. It is the golden thread running through all these paradoxes. The tightest grip achieves nothing. The open hand can receive the world. As you lie here, try to let go of the need to understand this. Let go of the need to follow these words. Let go of the need to even fall asleep. Just let go. 97. The unity of opposites. The ancient philosophers believed that all things contain their opposite. Life contains the seed of death. Light defines itself against the dark. Good cannot exist without the concept of evil. You cannot have a front without a back. Our minds love to categorize, to split the world into dualities. But reality is a whole. The paradoxes are not errors in the universe. They are glimpses of this deeper, unified reality, where opposites are two sides of the same coin. Your waking life and your sleeping life are not enemies. They are partners in the dance of your existence. 98. The gift of not knowing. We have traveled through 100 mind-bending paradoxes. We haven't solved a single one. And that was the point. The goal was not to find answers, but to tire out the question-asking part of your mind, to gently unravel the tight knots of logic and let them drift away like smoke. The greatest wisdom often lies in comfortable ignorance, in the peaceful acceptance that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be appreciated for their beauty. 99. The soft landing. And so, we end where we began with your mind, a mysterious, beautiful, and deeply paradoxical instrument. It seeks certainty in an uncertain world, logic in an illogical universe, and simple stories for a complex existence. And now, it's time to give it a rest, to let all these twisting, turning thoughts soften and blur at the edges. There are no more puzzles to solve, no more contradictions to untangle. 100. The silent answer. The sound of one hand clapping is the sound of your own thinking, coming to a rest. It is the quiet that follows the last word of a long story. It is the space between one breath and the next. It is the peace that you have been seeking, not in an answer, but in the end of all questions. There is nothing to figure out, nothing to achieve, nowhere to go. You are already here, and here is perfectly peaceful and perfectly still. We have journeyed together through 100 rooms in the mansion of the mind, each containing a different paradox, a different logical knot. From the liar who condemns himself with the truth, to the ship that is no longer itself, to the cat suspended between life and death. We've seen how time stretches and compresses, how our choices may not be our own, and how the very act of observing the world changes it. We've encountered the infinite hotel that always has room, the heap of sand that vanishes one grain at a time, and the quiet, unsettling thought that we might be living in a dream or a simulation. The purpose of this long, meandering journey was never to find answers. Answers are for the daytime. The night is for wonder. It's for allowing the rigid structures of daytime logic to soften, to bend, and finally, to dissolve. Each paradox is a small key that unlocks a door in your mind, not to let in a new fact, but to let out the pressure of needing to know everything, to reassure you that it's okay for some things to be unsolvable. It's okay for the universe to be mysterious. Your mind, in its quest for understanding, can sometimes be its own worst enemy, arguing with itself in an endless, wearying debate. So let this be the permission slip your busy mind has been searching for. Permission to stop. Permission to let go. Permission to accept the beautiful, comforting nonsense of it all. There is nothing more to figure out. No more problems to solve. The only task left is to feel the softness of your pillow, to listen to the gentle silence between the words, and to drift away on the quiet, peaceful river of not knowing. Let the current take you. Your mind has done enough for one day. It is time to rest,